Hey YouTube, it's Allie from Allie's Best, and I am sitting here in Bowie's nursery. It's messy. I am putting away laundry. She is playing, and I thought I would just sit down and have a chat with you guys about my first 2 weeks postpartum. Now, obviously, maybe not obviously, but Bowie is 11 weeks old right now. So my first 2 weeks postpartum were 9 weeks ago. But I thought it was important to talk about because if you've seen my birth video, healing from the C-section wasn't so bad. The emotional, mental part of the first 2 weeks postpartum were challenging, and I wanted to talk to you guys about it just in case any of you have gone through it or never got to chat with anyone about it, or for my friends out there who are pregnant and about to have a baby. I just wanted to talk about the first 2 weeks postpartum to give you guys someone to connect with. I think the thing I want to start with most is like the feelings from after birth don't have to last forever. My sadness, my heightened emotions, all of these like really intense negative feelings literally lasted 14 days. Like on day 14, all of a sudden I was like, However, I was prepared for them to last longer because I just assumed I would have postpartum depression. I gave heads up to my parents, my therapist, my friends. I was my husband, I was very concerned about having postpartum depression. So the other thing I want to say is again, I'm not a doctor, which y'all know. And talking to doctors about your mental health and being honest about your mental health and being honest about what you're going through is so important. The first 2 weeks I felt, we'll get into it. But after the first 14 days, I'm telling you, it's like a fog lifted. Like you guys know, I had a C-section, so I was in the hospital 2 days after Bowie was born. So we got to leave, I think on Sunday, and we picked up medicine, went home, and my in-laws were staying with us. So the first time we were home, my in-laws were there, and so was my brother-in-law and my new sister-in-law who came up for the day to visit Bowie. I was still kind of on the high of birth, and I had seen my oldest friend at the hospital. She came up to see the baby. And so I was still doing pretty good that day. I was walking around and chatting, and but the thing that was hard was feeding Bowie. So she's doing the signals that she's getting hungry, and I wasn't comfortable breastfeeding in front of any of those people besides my husband. So I was sitting in her nursery, just her and I, every time I needed to feed her. And that started to feel, hi babe, that started to feel kind of isolating and lonely, and breastfeeding hurt. I thought it was going pretty well, but it wasn't, as we find out later. But yeah, I didn't like that I had to breastfeed all, but I didn't have to. Everyone would have been fine with it. But I wasn't comfortable breastfeeding in front of all those people, and I wasn't comfortable saying that I wasn't comfortable. I just was really uncomfortable in my own home right when we got home, and that was the beginning of things that were really hard. The thing that was great is people were offering to help hold her and do things during the other times, but on the inside, I felt all I wanted was I wanted to be sitting on my couch with my baby, just me, her, and her dad, watching TV. I wanted to be doing skin to skin wherever I wanted in the house, not just in her nursery or in my room. Knowing what I know now, I definitely would have orchestrated the visiting differently, because everyone was being sweet and helpful and great, and especially because Pat's parents are nurses, it was also really awesome to have them there for all of my anxieties and fears about how Bowie was doing and how my body was healing. But I also couldn't mentally handle not being alone in my house very well either. The most negative part started, I think, 4 days postpartum, because we went back to Bowie's doctor's appointment, which was an hour and a half away. So we went to the doctor's office and they told us that she had lost an entire pound almost from when we left the hospital, and Bowie was born so little that that was just too much. And so the doctor said that we should supplement with formula, and I gave her 1 bottle and instantly she stopped latching. And it was hard to hear that I wasn't making enough for her, and I started to get it in my head that I guess technically like she was starving, but like it really got into my head that I was starving her. And I don't know, I just felt so horrible that like I couldn't do what felt normal, or like, oh, it just was like, it made me feel so, it's like so long ago, and like yet it made me feel like so horrible that I couldn't feed her in a way that was like normal and natural. And yeah, that really sucked. Because like I knew it was gonna, like, it could be hard. I knew that women struggled with this. And while I expected postpartum depression and that kind of stuff to happen to me, I fully did not expect breastfeeding to be hard for me. And I don't know why. So then I got into my head that like, because I couldn't breastfeed her, and because she like really doesn't look like me, or didn't look like me when she was born, those two things like kind of went hand in hand, I thought that she wasn't ever going to like me. And I was like convinced that we weren't going to bond because I couldn't breastfeed her. And this is ridiculous because like I love my mom and I'm adopted and she didn't breastfeed me. I look nothing like her. Although people say our hair is alike. I look nothing like her though. And she didn't breastfeed me and I love her. But it didn't matter. And I was convinced that Bowie wasn't going to like me, and that like she would only like her dad, and just like all this stuff about like how I thought we were never going to have a connection, and that because I failed at breastfeeding, I like ruined our whole lives together. And and then I had to start pumping. We have to rewind. So the day that we went to Bowie's first doctor's appointment, and I find out that I'm not making enough milk for her, we spend like a ton of time in this other town. Like a ton of time. And Bowie is in her car seat for most of it. And that started giving me a lot of anxiety, just like having her in her car seat. I'm like looking at her, trying to focus on her breathing. Like all I want to do is be holding her, but we're driving around all these places and I can't be holding her. I couldn't be pumping. I didn't feel comfortable breastfeeding because we were out with everyone. And like, that's when my swelling, which was really, my swelling was the hardest part of my postpartum recovery. And the swelling just had to do with the fact that I got a ton of fluids while I was at the hospital. I was really uncomfortable. I didn't feel like I could tell anyone how I was feeling. Not because they were doing anything wrong, but like I just wasn't comfortable. And when we drove home, like I started to just get really, really upset. And by the time we got home, I just quickly unbuckled her from her car seat, held her like this, basically ran into the nursery and just like sat down and cried. I just cried because I felt bad that she was in her car seat all day and she wasn't like cuddled and hugged and loved the way I thought she was supposed to. I cried because like I felt like I was starving her, and I don't feel this way anymore, but it is still like, I just feel bad for how bad I felt then. Like, I feel bad for that girl, Allie, who thought like, felt like a horrible mom and wasn't. Let's pause. Okay, anyway, so after that, my in-laws were still here, so when I wanted to pump or attempt to breastfeed, I did it in Bowie's room. And she got very annoyed at the breast and would cry when I tried to breastfeed her, which, again, like, just made me feel really horrible. Yeah, but she's fine. And then, in California, fire season was happening. PG&E started to do these planned blackouts, and we found out that our area was going to be blacked out for like 4 days with our newborn. And we decided, my husband and I, when his parents left, we had like one day, not even. The day his parents left, I think we left for San Francisco because we were going to stay at my parents' house because we don't have a generator and we didn't want to be home with a newborn with no electricity. We went to San Francisco to sleep on my parents' couches with our newborn, with me 10 days postpartum. Not even, 9 days postpartum, or 8, yeah. That did not give us a lot of like happy stability, and we went down there. But that said, like, it's a much smaller house, so there was definitely, like, there was no room for me to privately nurse or pump. So we just bottle fed her. I think I pumped twice in the 7 days I was there because the blackout ended up lasting a week. We're there. There's no privacy. Like, I get a lot of help just like I was getting when Pat's parents were up here, but that's a smaller house. We're getting stir crazy. So I decided it's a good time for all of my friends to meet Bowie. The first day I wanted to hang out with friends, there wasn't really anywhere to go. So I thought we would walk around the mall next to my mom's house like we did in high school with my 10-day-old baby. And like, I got anxious. Like, when I saw the mall, I was nervous because it was so packed and I wasn't used to it being like that. And, you know, I gave a moment's thought to like, oh God, there's gonna be so many people. Like, what if she gets sick? And we were just like, we'll just keep her in her carrier and have her closed up and it'll be fine. And so eventually, obviously, she has to eat at the mall, and I give her to my friend for her to eat. And it's been a really chill day for the most part. I mean, like, I'm anxious, but it's chill. And then this pregnant lady with her toddler in tow see us and compliment Bowie. And I say, oh, thank you. And then the mom's like, how old is she? And I was like, 10 days. And the mom goes, you're really brave to take your 10-day-old baby to the mall. And instantly I am feeling horrible. Like, this woman thinks that I'm putting my baby at risk, that like I'm being brave because she's gonna die from some horrible disease she gets while we're here at the mall. And I am like about to cry. And I was like, well, you know, we can't be at home because of the blackouts, so we're here. She continues and she's like, so are you breastfeeding? Which, like, I'm gonna go ahead and say, like, don't freaking ask people that. Like, unless they are really close to you, do not freaking ask people that. Like, stop. And I was already so upset about breastfeeding, and I was like, no. And she was like, you know, there's lots of resources. You really should be breastfeeding. And I was like, yeah, well, it's been really hard for us. And like, the mom wouldn't stop. And she was just, I felt like she was looking at me in such a condescending way. And I was like, that mom thinks I'm a horrible mom, and that I'm poisoning my baby with formula, and that she's gonna die of a disease that she gets at the mall. It was horrible. Like, we had to leave the mall right after. I was upset. I was so upset. I was upset for days because of that comment from that mom. I knew what she thought didn't matter, but during that time, I was like, even though I think what she thinks doesn't need to matter, she's probably right. Like, she is probably right that it's like embarrassing that I can't feed my baby breast milk. Even though she didn't say that, that's just like how she made me feel. And, you know, I felt really bad. But we had dinner plans that night, so I went to go see like my closest friends, like the friends I've had since freshman year of high school. Like, we are a very close-knit group of friends, and we all went to dinner and they all wanted to see Bowie, and I felt like in my head, I was like, oh my God, everyone must think we're so bad at this. Like they're my best friends. And the whole meal, all I could think was like, all my friends think I'm a really bad mom. And they all can tell that I feel like I'm losing it. Like, they can all tell that I'm super different, and they all think that I'm not fun anymore. And they're not gonna want to be my friends anymore. It's like sad funny because like it couldn't have been farther from the truth. Like, they love me. They love Bowie. Like, my friend Jeanette texted like I sent them something, and she was like, well, your sense of humor hasn't changed. And I don't know if it was a compliment or not, but it was like funny. I was so disconnected from what was actually going on. I felt so awkward. I just like really wanted to come home here. Like I just wanted to be home and alone with my baby because I felt like, I don't know, I just felt like no one liked me anymore and that everyone thought I was doing a bad job. And so, we had like other social interactions where we went out and, or like people came over to see Bowie and we went out and saw other people, and I got a little more used to it. But I was like really, yeah, I was just on edge and I felt really bad. And the whole time it's like everything adds a layer. Like I was scared of taking her out because I didn't want her to get sick. I was scared, I didn't like staying home because I wanted privacy and I couldn't get it. I wanted to be with my friends, but when I was with them, I didn't feel comfortable. Like it was just like there was no good spot. Like there was no solution to how I was feeling. And then like breastfeeding, it was just like everything we did, I felt like I wasn't doing good enough. We weren't connecting well enough. I wasn't being a good enough mom or a good enough friend or a fun enough person. It was just like a ton all at once. Yeah. I think it was like 15 days maybe. 14, 15, 16 days postpartum. Oh, I know what it was. Okay, so we are still out in San Francisco. It's like our last day, our second to last day. And yes, baby, you're so right. I am starting to feel like a solution that will make me feel better is to like get more involved in Judaism, which is a whole separate video. But I decided like I haven't had a mezuzah in my house since I was in college, so I wanted to go buy a nice mezuzah at the JCC. Oh my God, I'm gonna cry because this part makes me so happy. I swear, I am not crying this much anymore. It's literally just talking about this time in my life. So, I think it was 15 days postpartum, and we go to the JCC, and this gal who was coming out of the JCC sees Bowie's stroller and is like, I am so sorry, but can I see your baby? And I was like, yeah, of course. And I open it and she sees Bowie and she was like, oh my God, she's so cute. She's so cute. How old is she? And I said 15 days. And she says like, oh, wow. Like, I'm so impressed with you getting out that soon. Like, I was too scared. And even though she basically said the exact same thing as the girl said in the mall 5 days earlier, I heard it as like, yeah, like it is good that I'm getting out, and like it is good that I'm walking around and healing from my C-section, and like that is actually really good. I heard almost the exact same comment completely differently. And while part of me still thinks that the first woman just said it in a really mean, catty, judgy way, and the second woman said it in like a really loving, kind way, I just was like, oh, maybe I'm feeling better. Like it just was all of a sudden like being able to see like, oh, those comments were basically the same, and like the only thing that is different is the way I'm understanding them. Like maybe everyone doesn't think I'm a horrible, unfun person who's an unfit mother. Maybe I'm worried about those things and like taking everyone else's comments and filtering them through this thing that is my own problem. And then it just like got better. Like I had friends who were dealing with the fact that their breastfed babies like wouldn't stop crying. And Bowie, like once we started giving her formula, she was like full constantly and super like happy and rarely cried and slept great. I mean, that's kind of a blessing in disguise, right? Like sure, it would be great if she was getting breast milk, and you know, sometimes we would try to breastfeed a little bit, but like when it upset her, I was like, you know, it's not worth it. Like we're keeping her alive, and while her food might not be like all-star stellar breast milk, it's definitely like passable and it's working. And I just like, it really was just like all of a sudden one day I felt better. And I mean, definitely if I had continued feeling that way, I would have needed help. But you know, and I could have gotten help. I could have gotten help during that 2 weeks too if I wanted to. And you should if you want to. But I just like, you know, I really did feel a little bit like I was like losing control of stuff. And then like right around 2 weeks, all of a sudden I felt like, no, wait, I can do this and I'm good at this. And I do love her and she loves me and like I'm a good mom and or I'm as good as I need to be. Like, I don't need to win an award. I just need to like love her and keep her alive. Done. I mean, I don't even know if I'm going to post this. I don't know if I've even shared anything of value because I don't have a solution. Like, there wasn't a thing I did that made me feel better. Though I do think for me, like my instinct was to just like get out. Like my instinct was to be out of the other places that made me uncomfortable. Like I think I'd rather be uncomfortable in public because I might have just been uncomfortable in public anyway than feeling uncomfortable inside my own home. And I think inside my own home, I felt isolated anyway. I don't know. Like I don't have a solution. The only thing I can tell you is that for me, one day things just got better. And it was like right around the 2 week mark. And I'm telling you guys this because one of my coworkers told me, like, for the first 2 weeks, I would just cry at anything randomly. And I just wanted you to know. And it made me feel really good because, like, part of me knew that, like, it could just be 2 weeks. Like, it could be a long time, and then I'll get help with it, and then that'll be fine, too. But it also could just be 2 weeks. And I don't know. Just to know that, like, I don't know. I hope this helped you at some level. If it totally didn't, tell me and I won't make a video like this again. But I don't know. I think it's just nice sometimes to know what other people have gone through so that if you go through something and it's similar, you don't feel as alone. So I have no idea if this is coherent or not because I stopped so many times because I cried, but I hope it was helpful. Thank you guys. Please like and subscribe and we'll talk to you later.